What is up, my ninjas? Ah, yes. If you could only see my face right now, I've got like a M. Bison sized grin because I'm getting to review some good shit now. Because for a long time, I had been working on getting these Resolute people. Because at first, I thought the only guy I wanted was Flint. And before Flint, I was like, maybe I'll just get that Snake Eyes because he was part of the Rise of Cobra line, you know? Then I was like, you know what? Now that I got Flint and Snake Eyes, let me get Duke. And then before you knew it, I got this group of people right here. And I'm still not done. I'm going to have that whole 7-pack shortly because I think all I need now is Beachhead and Stalker. And I will find them. I almost got Stalker a couple days ago. But Resolute, man. Resolute. The good days, man. The good old days. Resolute to me is the epitome of what G.I. Joe should be in cinematic form. And anyone who says otherwise doesn't know their shit. The only issue I have with Resolute is how they handled Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes. It was like, you could clearly tell the guy who wrote, I think it was Warren Ellis, he wasn't familiar with G.I. Joe because he simplified it to just plain, this one's good and this one is evil, just because. And that's it, you know? So I would prefer the complexity of Larry Hama's version of their story, mix that in with the rest of Resolute, and it's amazing. Some characters are older. Duke feels like a different Duke. You remember how I kept saying that in my Joe verse there's been several Dukes? Because you can't be a Joe for like 50 years. Well, not everybody can, you know what I'm saying? And some Dukes have been killed. You know, some Joes in general have been killed and they've been replaced. So you have some guys with the same code name with a completely different attitude, but they use the same loadout. They fit the profile of the original character. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it felt like, you know? You see certain people like Doc was old. He had white hair. Bazooka was older. He had gray hair. Flint actually is older and he has graying hair. I think that's cool. That makes perfect sense. Flint seems like one of those guys that would have stayed aboard on the Joe team in some capacity because he's smarter than everybody else. He's just cooler. He knows what he's doing. He's the go-to guy. Roadblock's even graying, but he's bigger now than he was back in the day, which is why The Rock got relegated. He got downgraded to be in The Rock, and Roadblock took his spot back because, I mean, let's face it, The Rock is not Roadblock. Sorry. It's nice to get someone kind of brown playing the role and being, you know, in charge in the film, but he's not Roadblock. So
we're gonna be
it makes my heart so
one
happy
of these
to
guys,
see
but I just
these
had to
guys.
start
By letting you guys know how much happier it makes me to be reviewing Joes from a time where it felt like Hasbro kind of gave more of a shit about us than the new stuff where you can tell they're kind of starting to not care about us as much. You know what I'm saying? So they're just giving us shit because they know it'll make a little demographic happy and they will get some kind of money from it. You know what I'm saying? When you look at this was a corner of the G.I. Joe universe that wasn't really fully explored, and they made 2 7-packs, several carded figures, and I think there was another box set with Cobra. It was like all Cobra and that Duke with the jetpack thing. So yeah, I got to give them props for this because it made me really happy. Because like I said, of everything G.I. Joe, Resolute is my shit. That for me, when I saw Retaliation, and if you go back and watch the review, you'll hear me tell you that I had to put Resolute on, like, it was on rotation for a good day or a half, maybe 2 days, because I was so kind of conflicted with what I saw in Retaliation, you know? And even with them missing the mark with Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, Storm Shadow is my favorite Cobra, and the only person who comes after him is Alley Viper. Even though they missed the mark with him, you still got that amazing fight between them. The live action movies couldn't even give us that. You know what I'm saying? So Resolute is the shit. I wish that it continued and became the actual G.I. Joe series, you know what I'm saying? Like, to promote the toys, because there's a lot of room for revamps with characters over and over, different costumes, you know, more villains, and the darker tone just made it so much better. It felt like G.I. Joe. Wow, G.I. Joe. Wow, that would be a whole different type of show. G.I. Joe kind of, it grew up with us. That's what it felt like. It felt like they understood that the people watching this were little kids when G.I. Joe first came out. Even how the intro started, where you saw Flint point, and it was like the first like 2 seconds of the first intro, and then it just kind of burnt up and turned into a whole new thing. It's letting you know that this is for the adult audience that grew up with this stuff, and I'm happy that they did that. So excuse me, man, like I said, I'm still fighting this cold. I'm a little bit better, but this cough is kicking my ass. But anyway, let's get into the review. Today I am reviewing G.I. Joe Resolute Scarlett. Yes, Scarlett, the one who everybody says has a huge head. I think she's fine. The Poseability on this figure is awesome. The look is awesome. I think it's the best interpretation of her modern, a modern version of her Real American Hero costume. Because back in the day, it just looked like a girl running around in a bathing suit with tights and boots and stuff. She looked like a circus performer or a superhero, and it kind of fit the old G.I. Joe motif, but it felt a little bit out of place. This looks like she's as tactical as the guys, and I love it. I mean, she doesn't have high heels and all that stuff. I mean, as you can see here, she can chamber her gun the right way and actually look down the barrel and the sights the right way, and she looks cool in this situation with a squad. You know, she looks tactical. She looks like she's capable. And it's weird because female figures always have better posability than the men, consistently for the most part. You know, you want to make her do her martial arts just as good as any of the guys, if not better. You want her in gun poses, tactical. She can do everything you need her to do to look like a senior member of the Joe team. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, the way that Resolute kind of has her acting, it leads you to believe this is the same Scarlett from Real American Hero, just many years later. And you know what, 20 years later, almost 30 years later, something like that. It was almost 30. God, it's a long time. But I dig it. And I love this face. She's so serious, but she's still very feminine and still looks pretty. It doesn't look too manly. You know what I mean? I hear a lot of people complain about her face looking manly and Helix's face looking manly. What the fuck are you talking about? Some of those girls actually look right. I mean, you know, as far as comic book girls go. And when you look at the subject matter, or the you look at the source material, they're not very far away from what she's supposed to look like, you know, and I dig that. So, and as you can see, acrobatics, she's got that in spades. There's no issues with her. So this figure is a very versatile figure, regardless of what all the quote-unquote critics are saying about her head being big. And, you know, this line came... This is a figure from 2009. The Resolute series came out in 2009. I think, what is that, the same year as Rise of Cobra? I think. I could be wrong. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think Resolute came out first. It came out earlier in the year, and then Rise of Cobra came out later. And I even remember when I saw them, I was saying to myself, what the fuck? But my point is still 2009, and then we have the stuff I reviewed, you know, earlier from 2013, and you see that none of those issues exist here. Her weapon count is kind of small. I got her on eBay loose, but this is what she came with in the pack. Each person had a designated bag and, you know, their card and their gear all in the same, you know, the little baggie for them. Technically she doesn't really need anything. I would have liked for her to have a completely new crossbow setup, you know, but she didn't need it. Those two pistols are nice. For her though, the handles are kind of big for those hands. You know, she's got the smaller hands. So I actually switched those out because, you know me, I have to switch out the weapons that don't work and then give the ones that they, you know, that I switched them for to someone else that can use them. So I actually switched them to gunsmith, the old school gunsmith, because he used Berettas. Especially after I saw the Expendables, I was like, yeah, all day, every day, and that's what I use in Rainbow Six. But anyway, we're not talking about me. We're talking about Scarlett. Sniper rifle is nice. You've seen all these weapons before if you've been collecting JOEs for a long time, especially if you started collecting during the 25th anniversary or Rise of Cobra era, because all this stuff was reused throughout that time. But if you're like me, you go on Marauders and you get your weapons, and she looks so thorough holding an actual, assault rifle. She looks just as tough as the dudes, you know what I mean? And that's what I think is super awesome. These are the things that count when it comes to collecting these kind of figures, Also, here she is with the 2 pistols that I gave her. These are the pistols that came with the majority of the JOEs in the Rise of Cobra. I love them. They're like smaller, more compact Berettas, but I know they're not Berettas. They look like SIGs, and I don't know. They just look cool though, and they fit, and they're just versatile. When you get up close on them, you see all that good detailing on them. I actually have a more clearer focused picture of just the focus is more on the gun. It's just a well done gun. I mean, you can see everything: the hammer, the coil. It just looks right, and I love it. So that's the one I give to my more tactical JOEs. I relegate those other ones to the more 25th anniversary style ones. Here's my comparison. These are the 3 Scarlett figures I have. I have a 4th, but I turned her into a custom because that was the Renegades one. I gave the head to my son, and we put it on the old school 25th anniversary Scarlett, and I used the body for a Lady J custom. But as you can see, she's a little bit more, I want to say, heftier than the other 2. Excuse me. The other 2 are obviously movie figures because, like I said, that was my jumping back on point. But she fits in really well. I mean, you could swap any of those heads, put it on this body, and it would still work. So I like that about this figure. She does look so tactical that this could have been a movie costume, and I don't know why it wasn't. Hopefully when they do this, decide to put her in a film, this is the kind of gear that they're going to give her, because it works, I love this head sculpt, even though in the figures they kind of had it wrong, because when she first showed up, she had her hair down, but throughout the movie, she had her hair pulled back when she was wearing her gear, like the armor. But I flip-flop back and forth sometimes. But I just love the fact that they actually made them in their BDUs. So, yeah, sometimes, this one will be the one I have displayed in my dioramas and stuff because she's working. This is the field gear, which I dug, I came up with the concept of having a Black Ops team within G.I. Joe called Shadowhammer, and they're like the super secret team. So there's JOEs that are, colors, quote unquote, the ones that are in the public that are on this team, and the rest of the Joe team has no idea because Hawk uses them for specific things. So, this is her Shadowhammer attire. It's the equivalent of Night Force. But even compared to those 2, Rachel Nichols, I think her name was, she's fine. Don't get me wrong. She is fine. She was a perfect choice. If we're just going for the look, she's a perfect choice for Scarlett. As far as ability, not so much, because she's not the kind of fighter that you need for this kind of character. This figure still captures, some of the beauty that the character is supposed to have, and I like that. She still looks, tough enough. They didn't make her all sex and no skills, you know what I'm saying? And the costume, once again, I have to say, is just, it's well done. It's a nice costume. It's well designed. It's just well thought up, or thought out. I'm sorry. The color scheme works well. There's nothing for me to complain about. Everything works from front to back to side to whatever. None of the joints look weird. There was no paint slop on mine, and usually Joes have paint slop. So considering this is from 2009, it was part of a box set that was part of a very kind of limited, you know, series when it comes to G.I. Joe. It's crazy that they put so much detail into it. I mean, look at those pockets on her boots. And I know that we've seen those pockets. I think they were on the Collectors Club Jinx, because pretty much she was a repaint. But I mean, look at those boots, man. That's like really well detailed. The design is nice. Look at how the gray is well painted. You're not seeing slop carrying over onto the yellow or the mustard color. It's just, I don't know. They did such a great job. You got to give them props, you know. I actually got her for a decent price. And here she is with Duke. She looks pretty cool with Duke. I know a lot of, you know, Snake Eyes faithfuls were probably hurt when she decided she wanted to be with Duke and not Snake Eyes. You know, whatever. I don't really care. And for you faithfuls, here's her with Snake Eyes, who looks really small. But that's the other thing. Her hair and her stance, you know, she's tall. She's kind of tall. And I like that. But, you know, that Snake Eyes, he's kind of hunched, which is weird. But, you know, they look cool together. So, like I said, all in all, you have a really good figure, really well designed, very versatile. She can use most weapons with no problem. She can take poses that a lot of the guys can't even assume. The paint work is good. The sculpt work is good. I mean, there's really not much to you know, to add. I know a lot of people were trying to say, you know, her head's too big. Listen, the human body is usually about 2 heads tall. That's how us artists figure out how to make sure our proportions are right. You know, it's a good way to check. If you can fit 2 heads and nothing more in the you know, 2 whole heads can fit, or just about 2 whole heads stacked on top of each other, that shape, those 2 shapes, that's how you check to make sure the torso is the right size for any of the any type of body. I mean, human bodies. I'm not talking about like monsters and shit like that. So when you look at that and you put her head to her body, you can see it. It's 2 heads tall. If her head was too big, then you couldn't do 2 heads. You could only do like 1, you know, or 1.5 or something like that. You can put 2 of those heads stacked on top of each other directly in front of her, and that's how tall her body is. So all those people saying that her head looks bigger because of the way her hair is, but it's the right sized head, you know. Even when you put her next to the guys, her head is still in scale with the guys. So the head part, that's individual preference, or, you know, perception. It's not necessarily the truth about this figure. So, you know, to some people it looks big. The fact of the matter is, and you know me, I'm always trying to bring you guys the facts. The fact of the matter is that the head is fine as far as size goes. I'm happy with her. I'm super happy with her. I'm going to be doing a couple more reviews. Well, not a couple more. I'm going to review all the Resolute figures that I have and all the ones that I get. Like, I'm going to get the whole 7-pack out of the way. A couple of those figures, I want to say Duke, Beachhead, Flint, and, well, more Duke. Yeah, Duke, Beachhead, Flint, and Stalker kind of have the same gear and everything. Snake Eyes kind of does too. So, you know, I'm going to probably put 2 of them together in all those reviews because they're so similar. But expect Roadblock coming next. Another 25th anniversary Lady J. I've been aching to review her. But anyway, this has been a review of the Resolute Scarlett. I'm STRYDENT. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And I will see you on the next review. Peace outside.